I would like to address the Democratic National Convention on a few issues that I see as a buckeye here in a divided America. Number one, I am proud to say that I have been able to develop a campaign to recognize citizenship, growth in communities, outreach programs, and bridges for better futures through my inspiration of an ALS story that is attached, that reaches out to help people who can't afford the medicines, say like a Magic Johnson for AIDS, but can direct you in places that can assist you to get the best help available from America. I've attached sheets that were created for Warren County, where I live, as we try to help our community members to become better, more productive citizens, healthier, happier, and more family-based with directives, plans, and successful outlines that they can share amongst each other at dinner tables, along with stories like the one that I tell about this family that inspired me, as well as a book that I wrote in reflection of my life and the things that I learned to value around them. Number two, we must stop Donald Trump. His euphoric disease of division, being guided by the prophets and not seeing the value of a handshake, a smile, and a solid truth has affected our children to a point to where they're acting disorganized. They are convening in secret, bullying on the internet, and becoming a drain on American society, all the while being overlooked and neglected by parents who are overworked, who are not understood, who are not unified, and who are losing communities because they are not participating. They are not being aware of what's going on in the leadership. They're not paying attention in our schools while children quit saying the Pledge of Allegiance and quit praying out of fear to whichever God they serve. The moral guidelines are being lost in America. As we sidestep issues because we're afraid to discuss them, I think that we should bring minorities together to discuss their opinions, to discuss the things that they value, and to try to add all the ingredients that we can into our communities, states, and federal government. I have done all this while disclosing a little known fact about an interest I have in my own family history that goes back to Rachel and Emily Donaldson and the Donaldson family, who founded Nashville, Tennessee, and that my grandma greatly disclosed to me as we sat one day towards the end of her life, talking about my mother's first birthday and how euphoric it was for her, sitting down in Tennessee crab orchard and receiving a letter that she read to my ailing grandfather, Jack Donaldson, from a private named Roy Smith, as he awaited the Normandy invasion, May 2nd, 1944, facing uncertainty, facing the Fuhrer, the Third Reich, and the first real test of American fortitude. I reflected upon this with her, and we discussed the significance of the Statue of Liberty given to us by France as a gesture for us to understand the wars that happened with my great-grandfather Andrew Jackson, as he unified the states especially in the South, where he lived, Hermitage, Tennessee, and then was asked to conquer Florida, to take it from the Spaniards and the natives, which he did, bringing it into the fold of the United States of America, and then battling in the Battle of New Orleans, and pulling the rest of the southern states into the mix. And when he was done, asked to be president of the 7th presidency of these United States of America. And as you go through the stories, not only of his love affair with my great-great-grandmother, but the way that they unified Nashville, Tennessee, being the founding family, and then marrying President Andrew Jackson and supporting him throughout his life, you can see the development of these United States. All history books tell different lessons. It wasn't a beautiful adolescence for our country. It wasn't a beautiful teenage years through civil rights. But we are here today with all the lessons that were left from people like Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. But one of the proudest things that I can tell you about President Jackson and the Donaldson family, my family, is that they were the first Democrats. And I think that's important here at the Democratic Convention as we take a look at things that are democratic values, like sovereignty of states, something that Governor DeSantis has touched on, and I agree with him somewhat, on being very aware as states not to let the power of the federal government begin to tax us to death or begin to dictate how we raise our children by sending us things like this Patriot Act, which must be abolished. This Patriot Act stands for nothing more than a force spike in their ability to walk in our homes and take our children. I will not tolerate this Patriot Act, and I have made a stand here in Ohio against the President Donald J. Trump and his campaign contributions. I have outlined 1963 to 1983 and all the bureaucracy involved with these campaign contributions and the power that it created sitting in our senator in the 7th District in the state of Ohio, Steve Wilson, who will be held accountable like all the others who attended Rob Portman's Golden Lamb in Lebanon, making campaign contributions. And if they're allowed to come into our homes to surveillance everything that we do, then we're going to hold them liable and accountable on the other side of it, which is the financial obligations through the donations to this terrorist organization that we've seen take over our White House. They can be charged with treason and will be. This is not a law that is suggestive. This is not something Mark Hazelwood's going to sidestep. There's not enough lawyers in the country to say something different than what sits on that paper in the Patriot Act. $10,000 in donation constitutes a trial for treason and supporting terrorism. As Democrats, we must hold them accountable. We cannot allow them that kind of power and wiggle room so that oil companies like Vice President Seminarelli and Mark Hazelwood run are allowed to sidestep the laws as they rip off $55 million from our Teamsters unions. Our truckers cannot choose their gas cards based on lies. A man's word is a man's word, but when you start taking money off the dinner table for truck drivers in America, that's gone too far. I ask these Democrats, like Steve Wilson, to either answer the questions or step away. You're not going to represent this country. You're not going to deceive my children and teach them it's okay to lie. Finally, I'm going to close with hopefully a reading from the two most beautiful children that I know, who have suffered more than they ever should have, and I have dedicated quite a bit of time to trying to show them how much I appreciate all the strength that they have to overcome the disease that we know as Lou Gehrig's. Trying to do it in Lou Gehrig's fashion with my enunciations and a book about my personal Lady of Liberty. She has taught the children of Florida, and Governor DeSantis, Mark Rubio, and Senator Scott will agree. She is the symbol of everything that is right in these United States. She will not waver. She will be supported, and she will not be misrepresented. Not under my command. She will be respected, revered, and accoladed as what we want all women in America to try to be, which is strong. That statue that stands outside in Paris Island has a torch on it that was lit for immigrants like us who landed on Plymouth Rock seeking refuge. We are ashamed of what we done. The Native Americans tried to help us. We manipulated them. We manipulated their way of life, almost caused them extinction. We must learn the lesson from it, or the greatest sin of all will be lost, which is not growing